What's up, everyone? This is PWI Presents FaceTurn with Candace Cordelia, and I'm your host, Candace Cordelia. Today, I am here with NWA star Colby Corino, and we'll be going into what he's been up to lately, his match with his dad, Steve Corino, and we might just get to talk about everything that's been happening in his personal life, including his son, who I understand, Colby, he's in the other room. You have him safe, sequestered away. So how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me. You are my first NWA guest, so I'm completely honored to have you on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed, So let's just get right into things. Before we got into this interview, we were talking about how it's been several years since we both saw each other in person pre-pandemic. And since then, of course, life has changed for both of us, but specifically for you, with not just wrestling, but, having your son and really just doing a lot of great and big things with your life. So before we get into that, I want to first ask you, what was it like growing up in a wrestling family? Your dad, Steve Corino, your aunt, Allison Danger, and your uncle, Aries. Talk to us about that.
Like when I was a kid, I always just thought it was like normal growing up. Like I didn't know any different. But like when I started like getting to the age where I would like talk about my home life and like the things that I would do normally, I would just like look at all the faces of all my friends and stuff, and it would just be like bewildered looks everywhere. And then I think that's when I started to realize that like I was raised just a little bit differently, that like not every kid got to just travel the world at a young age, or like his father didn't get all bloodied every weekend. Or I feel like I was raised a little differently.
Yeah. And so what was it like seeing your dad in the ring and getting that eagle eye view of, pretty much what your future would be like?
I never thought really about it like that, but it was just like people always like, or like, were you ever like scared when you saw your dad like bleeding and come to the back? And I was like, no, like that, it was completely normal to me. Like he'd come to the back and I'd put a Band-Aid on him, like wipe all the blood off. Like it was just another day at the office. This is what my dad did for work. So it just kind of like, it just became normal to me, kind of.
So when did you first decide that you wanted to carve your own path as a professional wrestler?
I mean, I've just been engulfed in wrestling my whole life. I went to my first wrestling show when I was 3 weeks old, and I've just been watching wrestling my whole life. It's specifically like indie wrestling, really, because like after like the Attitude Era, I didn't really watch a lot of the stuff on TV, because like I watched the stuff that my dad was on, like when he went to Japan or when he went to Puerto Rico, or the stuff on the indies. And I think really the moment where I realized I want to be a pro wrestler was like watching Ring of Honor in 2010 and watching Davey Richards versus Tyler Black having a crazy match. And I'm just like, that is what I want to do, like that right there.
Oh, wow. So, you grew up in a wrestling family. You've been going to shows since you were pretty much, a young baby, and now you're in NWA. So what was that journey like, starting off in the indies and now getting to a point where you're working for NWA and having these wonderful matches?
I mean, I still get to be go on the indies all the time with NWA. Like they're very lenient with that type of stuff. They don't like keep me exclusive or locked away in some hidden basement. So I still get it. Like I get that taste of the indie life, but like it's definitely starting to like change. Like I could definitely tell how much popular indie wrestling is getting, and it like I love to be a part of indie wrestling. Like I said, like that's what I grew up watching. So like I don't think there's ever gonna be a point where I don't want to wrestle on the indies.
And what's one of or a few of the favorite indie promotions that you like to wrestle for currently?
Currently, I wrestle for PWF in North Carolina, AML. I am frequently at No Peace in Florida. I travel a whole bunch of places though. I like to like see myself as a journeyman. Like it's not like I just wrestle like 3 promotions every month. I try to like very much like wrestle everywhere I can. Oh, and I can't go like an interview without mentioning how much I love to work at GCW. That place is just fun to work.
Nice, nice. And speaking of, traveling, of course, over the course of the past year and a half, it's been hard, especially for a lot of wrestlers to travel and make do with the pandemic. So what was that experience like for you?
It was pretty hard at first because wrestling was my primary form of income. So it was a really hard adjustment, as I'm sure it was for a lot of people, just being locked down and not being able to be able to like make money in the industry that is what my passion's in. But I was still able to. We kept our wrestling school open and still able to keep small classes going the whole time during the pandemic, barring a few weeks where there was like an outbreak at the school. So I was able to stay in a ring for most of the time, and that kind of helped with like dealing with the pandemic. I feel like.
Yeah. And not only that, but you also have a son. So I'm assuming that the addition of having a child to look after, it adds a little bit more stress as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel every day when I'm home watching them, that's like, man, like I feel like I'm not doing enough with them. Like I'm not taking them to these amusement parks, or I'm not taking them to the park, or like we live 10 minutes from the beach and we never get to go because it's a tourist town. And we too worried about like getting going out and just so many people there. But I gotta keep reminding ourselves we're in a pandemic. We gotta do what's safe.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? Absolutely. So going back to PWF, which you just mentioned not too long ago, that's where you had your match with your dad, Steve Corino, and it was on your 25th birthday. So you had two things to look forward to. Talk to us about that experience facing your dad in the ring and of course around your 25th birthday as well, what that felt like.
Oh man, like you said, that it was like I had two things to look forward to. It's just, like to me, it felt like I had like two big things to worry about because I had to put together this show and make sure it went smoothly. And on top of that match I had with him, it was a lot of pressure. And like all day I felt like it was like I felt not me, like I felt so much pressure on me. But there's like a point where if you watch the match that like after the bell rings, me and my dad shake hands, and it's just like it snaps and I'm ready to go and I'm back into game mode. But that like leading up to it though, I was very nervous and very anxious.
Yes, and spoiler alert, sorry to anyone watching who hasn't seen the match, but yes, Colby did win. So you got to have an extra additional birthday gift, if you will, which is really cool. So when the match was over, was there anything that you and your dad discussed, any advice that he gave to you? Because he himself was coming out of retirement for this match. So that's another, huge thing that both of you had to kind of face and really deal with.
We didn't really talk about like what we could have done better. It was kind of it was a moment for both of us, and I think we just both were able to like afterwards. We like took a few minutes and like we were able to let that moment soak in and like just live in it for a minute and be able to like feel what we just did. Like I mean, without looking at any of the social media that was going on at the time, like we just felt like we did something special, and it was just we took a couple moments just to remind ourselves that it was special.
Mhm. Now, would you both ever do it again? Could we expect to see something like this happen at 2.0 or anything of that nature potentially?
I don't know if he's got it in him, but I don't know. I asked him if he got one more in him after my or just this last match, and he said he's going to need some time. So
Mhm.
we'll see.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And, now we have another generation, a third generation, if you will, with your son. Now, if your son came up to you and said, Dad, I want to do what you do, I want to be a professional wrestler, what would you tell him?
I'll tell him to go to college first. Get educated before you get dropped on your head.
But would you encourage it at least? I mean, that sounds like a great plan, to be quite honest. Go to college, and then if you still want to get into the business, certainly with an education.
Yeah, I definitely would encourage it though. Like I want to encourage whatever he would want to do. Like we have a ring in my garage and we're out there all the day, every day, and he's running the ropes properly and doing up and overs. It's trying to do all these crazy wrestling moves at 2.5 years old. So I just want him to do what he wants to do.
Wow, it's in the blood. So we might see, you never know, maybe in 20 years' time, you versus your son and keep that legacy going. That would be awesome.
Hey.
So talk to us about being an NWA. First and foremost, congratulations. on being a part of their roster. What's that been like for you?
I absolutely love working at NWA. Like they give me so much freedom, and it's such a positive environment. Like I think it's a really good collection of like younger up and coming talent and like older veterans. And nobody there is like, everyone's super cool. Everyone wants to build each other up. No one's there to just build themselves up. Everyone wants to make the product better. Everyone makes everyone around them better. And I think that's makes the product very good and makes the morale really good.
Now, and that's so lovely to hear because, people, I guess, expect to see some sort of, backbiting or gossip of any kind. So it's always lovely to hear that rosters get along. You guys are doing well, especially in this climate. That's awesome. I have to ask you, being a Smashing Pumpkins fan myself, have you met Billy Corgan?
Oh yeah, most certainly. Billy Corgan's very involved in all the tapings. He's always there, and at least all the times that I've been there, he's been there. And he's very like accessible to the talent. Like if I have a question or concern, you just go up and talk to Billy. It's not a thing. It's he's the boss of the company still.
That's really cool. Is there any advice that he's given to you now that you're entrenched in the company and you're working your way through?
Oh yeah, 100%. Definitely like a lot of character stuff, and I'm trying to put that all into Colby terms. And hopefully, if you're watching NWA Power, you can kind of see a little bit of that coming out.
That's awesome. I mean, imagine having a boss such as Billy Corgan, who it's just awesome that he's also a wrestling fan, and it really shows, and you can see it in NWA and what y'all are doing. So the fact that you can go up to him and ask advice, I mean, that's just something that you can tick off of your bucket list and just, tell anyone. That's really, really cool. So what's happening next for you in NWA? Is there anything that we can look out for as, the months are nearing to, or rather, I should say the year is nearing to an end?
Yes, we got a live show coming up in Oak Grove, Kentucky. That is on October 24th. Tickets are on sale at nwatix.com, I believe. In fact, check me on that. But and then after that, we are returning to GDP Studios in Atlanta on the first weekend of December, and we are coming back for a whole weekend of TV tapings and pay-per-view too. So NWA fans, mark your calendars, go get your ticks.
Yes, you sold that extremely well, Colby. I have to say that was excellent. Another thing that I want to ask you is about your involvement with the Ugly Ducklings, another stable that I haven't seen them in quite some time. But I loved reading the fact that you're a part of the stable, and I've always loved the Ugly Ducklings. So what's happening with that, and what can we expect with your involvement within that stable itself?
I'm not sure if the people out there or you have heard, but Lance got diagnosed with cancer last year, and that's been kind of a rough time for everybody. Earlier this year, we put on a benefit show to raise money for his treatment, and we were able to raise a lot of money for that. He's currently going through chemo right now. I think he just had his 10th round a few days ago. And I mean, chemo sucks. The treatment of it sucks, but his spirits are high and he's keeping good. Rob is still running all over the country and wrestling about 8 times in a weekend. You could see me and Rob team at XWW on October 16th, I believe, on a Saturday in Charlotte, North Carolina. And you can see him running all around the country. If you check his Twitter, I'm sure he's coming to a town somewhere near whoever's listening somewhere near to whoever is listening to this interview. There we go.
Perfect. It's all good, Colby. And prayers to Lance. I definitely remember reading about that and seeing his progression. And I'm praying for you. I'm glad that things are getting better. And as you said, chemo does suck. But if you have positive vibes, keep your spirits up. Prayers do work. At least I believe so. So it's really nice to hear that he's still doing well. I also want to ask you because, and you kind of alluded to this previously, we've heard obviously about this forbidden door, and since you're an NWA, you can face other wrestlers in other companies such as AEW, Impact, NJPW, etc. If given the chance, who would you love out of any of those promotions to face in the ring, and why?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot with this question. But true. Let's think. I want to wrestle Alex Shelley, whatever companies he's flown around in. I've seen him in Impact for quite a bit, so maybe we can get I can get over there and wrestle some Alex Shelley. There's a few guys in AEW I'd love to mix it up with. Their list of the guys I want to wrestle is pretty much the list of the whole roster. So I'm not going to waste your time running through everyone there.
You got to give us one or two. One or two.
All right. Off the top of my head, Brian Pillman Jr. I've mixed it up with him in the past, and I feel like he's grown as a performer so much in the past couple years. I would love to mix it up again with him. I mean, of course, the big one, Kenny Omega. I would love to have a match with Kenny Omega. Man, I would love to have an Ugly Ducklings tag match with so many people on that roster. That roster stacked. We've been saying the Young Bucks for years now, but Lucha, Lucha Brothers, Jurassic Express. Like, there's so many good matches that the Ducklings could have there.
I could see all of those, to be quite honest, especially the tags you mentioned. That would be really something. So let's put that in the universe. We're going to make that happen. Positive thing for Colby. Really, right? So something else that I want to ask you, growing up, I've already mentioned you being a part of an established wrestling family, but was there anyone that you met growing up that you completely just, that stopped you in your tracks, that you could not believe that you were meeting in person?
It's funny because it's usually like the weirdest people for me. Not like the weirdest people, because I don't want them to listen to this and take it the wrong way. But like, it's not like the Hulk Hogan. Like, I've been able to meet Hulk Hogan, but I was like way more enamored with meeting X-Pac. Like, X-Pac was my dude. I was so excited when I met X-Pac for the first time. Of course, meeting Rey Mysterio, that was such a huge thing. And like, the crazy part was, like, he wasn't even wearing his mask, but I could tell it was him because he was wearing a leather Gucci shirt. And like, it was like the same height as Rey Mysterio. I was like, there's no one else here that would ever be able to afford a Gucci shirt besides Rey Mysterio.
Oh, I like that a lot. I mean, the fact that you could tell who he was right off the bat, and he didn't have a mask on. I mean, that just goes to show that you were completely 100% into wrestling. So
yeah, I mean, you too. So I mean, I kind of had like that little inkling in my mind. I'm like, I've seen this face before.
Those are really fine choices. I like that. I really do like that. So what's coming up next? You've mentioned a lot of dates and things happening with NWA, but even just, personal wise, is there anything else that you're really excited about getting going in your own life?
Oh yeah. So actually just this weekend, I'm not sure when this interview will play, but this weekend I have coming up, it starts on a Thursday, actually. We got emo night for GCW in New York City. The day after that, I got to come back to North Carolina. We got PWF. That'll be live on IWTV. The day after that, I'm going to Taylor, South Carolina. I'm going to be in a 4-way match with Sal Renaro, who I'm going to beat up, and 2 other young up-and-coming talents. And then the day after that, I have a barbed wire death match with Alex Colon for Sean Henderson Productions in New Jersey. So I am all over the country this weekend.
That's fantastic. And a death match. Whew, well, good luck to you. Good luck for all the matches. But, yeah, especially a death match. It's not an easy thing. So, you're jumping right into the frying pan with that. But we know you'll kill it with that. So I have no doubts, definitely. So yes, and I understand you're in North Carolina. I've heard a lot about the North Carolina scene, how special it is. In your opinion, what makes the North Carolina wrestling scene special and make people flock to it and try to get on shows?
I remember back in the day, when I say back in the day, I mean 2015, 2016. North Carolina was like the indie hotspot, so to say. We had so many good indie talents there. We had Cedric Alexander, Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett, so many people coming out of the Carolinas, and they all got big jobs and contracts everywhere. So they're not here no more. And I feel like that left a little bit of a hold, but it seems like the Carolinas are starting to regain that hold of what they had, what made them special a bit. And I think it's just, there's a lot of wrestling in the Carolinas. We're like, it's 2 big states and there's shows constantly. Every weekend, there's probably literally over 100 shows combined.
Oh, wow.
There's always work, lots of schools.
Mm.
So there's and a lot of good schools too. It's not just people that are going to take your money. Like a lot of reputable schools. There's AML, Firestar Pro Wrestling, Palmetto Wrestling Academy in South Carolina, CWA, of course, the one I'm affiliated with. I forgot to say that one first. But man, there's a whole ton of great schools here.
Mhm. What's the advice that you would give to someone up and coming in the scene that has really followed your career and wants to do the things that you're doing? What would you tell them in order to really get to that stage and to keep things professional and stay consistent in the game?
To travel to as many places as you can and work with as many different people as you can, because like you can I see it a lot of times that like wrestlers with a lot of talent will just stay in their same area, and they won't be able to progress because you can only learn so much from wrestling the same 50 people or so. So you need to travel, and you need to like learn what other people are doing, because there's no one right way in wrestling. And that's what I tell all my students, is that there's no one right way. So like even the stuff that I'm saying, like take it with a grain of salt even, and just try to see if it's useful to you and apply it and listen to everybody. So if you pick that up for everybody, I feel like you're going to turn out pretty well.
Yeah. Great sound advice. And I mean, you're paying it forward, as you stated, being a trainer yourself. What does that feel like for you to get into such a gratifying type of job?
Oh, I love it. That's it. It feels even more fulfilling than being a wrestler. If it's like a mix between being a wrestler and being a dad, like I call them my kids, but they feel like little brothers and sisters to me. Like I look out for them. I try to help them grow as people and wrestlers. It's a really cool feeling to see people grow.
That's really nice. What is the legacy that you want to leave, when you're retired from the business at a certain point? We don't know when that will be, obviously, but how do you want people to remember your matches and remember you as a professional wrestler?
So like nowadays, like I was saying, like I've been saying this whole interview, I'm enamored with indie wrestling. Like I go back and I watch all the all-time greats when they were on the indies. And like I keep thinking to myself that I want to have a portfolio like that one day, that people still want to go back to and watch my indie stuff, even when I'm like old and decrepit and in a wheelchair from doing all these flips and stuff and breaking my back. But it'll all be worth it if like, because I feel like with the internet and all this stuff. And I actually heard New Jack say it best, that a kid came up to him and he was like 9 years old, and he said that New Jack was his favorite wrestler. I was like, New Jack was like, man, how'd you even hear of me? And the kid was like, YouTube. Like YouTube and the internet makes us all immortal, basically. So I want to like be able to put together a portfolio that's good enough that people want to go back and keep me immortal, you know?
Hmm. I really like that. That's really cool. Colby, it's been really good catching up with you after, my goodness, about maybe 3.5 years since we saw each other in person. And it was at the promotion now, Catalyst. You are, I understand, the Catalyst Wrestling Heavyweight Champion
Oh
now?
yeah, put muscle now.
Yes. So congrats to you on that. That's really, really cool. Is there anything you want to say about being the Catalyst Wrestling Heavyweight Champion as well?
Oh yeah, so Catalyst was one of the promotions that like never stopped going during the pandemic. They had no fans tapings going the whole time. Brought all these guys in from over the country and made sure like COVID procedures were followed to a T, like very stringently. And made sure everyone still got their paydays. So like for people like me who rely on wrestling, like that was a huge help. I was still able to get like big matches with Black G's, Homicide, Jordan Oliver, all during the pandemic in front of no people for the internet, of course. But it was, I really love Catalyst Wrestling. And just this past Friday, we were able to have the first show back in front of fans in Jersey City. And it was great. It was great to feel the energy of the crowd again with Catalyst. And we are returning to Jersey City on November 5th. Yeah, 5th.
More authority, you're like fifth. That's okay. That's okay. Something tells me you got it right there, so I'm not going to hold that against you.
No, it took that long because I was making sure I was right, you know?
Exactly. You're all good with that. But thank you once again, Colby. This has been really nice catching up with you. And before we leave, is there anything else that you'd like our fans here with PWI to know?
Of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Colby Corino. You can follow me at Instagram or on Instagram at Colby.Corino, because someone stole at Colby Corino. Have to get that. You can then buy my merch at colbycorino.bigcartel.com. If you don't like any of the stuff on there, you can go over to my Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Colby Corino. And if you don't like anything on there, you can go to my What a Maneuver store at whatamaneuver.com/Colby Corino. Between all that stuff, I hope someone finds something that you like.
Oh, I'm sure we all will. Absolutely. You hit all the bases. Thank you once again, Colby. This has been absolutely 100% fantastic. And I am so personally proud of your success and wishing you all the best to you and your family. Thank you, everyone, for watching another episode of FaceTurn with Candace Cordelia. This is a PWI Presents production. Stay tuned for more excellent interviews with some of your favorite wrestlers and more. And follow us on YouTube as well as on our Instagram account and as our Twitter account. And you can also follow me at Candace Cordelia on Twitter and on Instagram at ThatGirlCandace16. I will see you all later, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.